Hi, welcome back to another month. We are now in August. It's incredible. We are already in the last half of this year of 2022. Today we talk about sustainability in translation, and we talk about how can we as translators make choices that are more sustainable and more environmentally friendly. So in this or Translator Insider, we are going to talk about sustainability. So stick around. So let's talk about sustainability. And as translators, we all obviously hear about um, sustainable business, sustainability, and how to be more sustainable today. It's something that obviously it's spoken about in a regular basis these days because it is something that is very important, including to translators. Sometimes you may think, oh, well, but I'm just a translator. What can I do? Well, we can do a lot. If you think about it, there are a lot of things that we as translators, as entrepreneurs, because that's what we are, we run our business, and obviously sustainability is a part of running an efficient business. And if you are sustainable, that will help your bottom line because you are making choices that will help you save money in lots of things by reducing waste, etc., etc. So, in the end, it's not only for the environment, but we're doing it for our business as well, and it's a very important thing. And we don't really need to, like do a lot. It's simple things. It's very, very simple, basic things that in the end, if we look at it, we have saved a lot. We have done something for the environment. We have reduced our wastage, and that would be a positive thing, and it will help us to be a more positive, environmentally friendly business. That's what we all want. And we can start by very simple things, like, for example, when we receive a project, we should not print it. If we receive an email, we should not print it unless it's extremely necessary. If we really need to print that email because we really need something from it. But if we don't really need, why should we print it? It would be wasting paper. We would be wasting paper. We would be wasting ink that it's highly toxic, and that won't be good. The paper would mean more trees down, and the ink, obviously, it's toxic. So if we can reduce on that because it's not really needed, we will be running a more sustainable business. The same way, our translations, if we don't need a hard copy of the documents we translate, it does not make sense that we just print them. I understand that we need to review it, but we can do it on the screen. I know working on screens is hard, but that's basically how we do our work these days, and I think it's a more approachable way than just printing and then having a piece of paper that we just look and review, because even on the screen is more feasible. You're just looking at the screen, you see what you need to correct, and you correct it straight away. So in my view, it is easier. That's how I do it. So we reduce the wastage. For example, we reduce the number of the paper that we use in our business. I can say that Updated Words, it's really efficient on that. I hardly print anything unless I have obviously a client for certified translation that needs to be certified with my stamp, and obviously the client will need the hard copy. They will need the original of that translation, and that of course makes sense, and that of course it's something that you cannot avoid. It's part of your service, it's part of your work and of your business. So therefore you can really not avoid that that use of paper and printer, because it's part of it. The same, for example, at the end of financial year, I will have to print out my reports to send to the accountant for taxation purposes. Obviously, that's another thing. If I can, I will send her via email, but sometimes she asks me for the hard copies. So it's another thing. If you really even your documents for your accountant, ask your accountant if you can, for example, send them the documents via email, and digital copies, if they are happy with that. I think it's a much better option than having you printing out things that then you don't need. Another thing, for example, it's other types of things that you might use in your business. Make sure that you really need them. And if you don't, if it's something that you don't need, then you can think of other ways of doing it. This is how we create change. This is how we actually think about the environment and do something about it. For example, I believe we all have, subscriptions of magazines, or, for example, as a member of the Chartered Institute of Linguists, I receive the Institute's magazine and the Linguist, and it's usually sent a hard copy. So I receive a hard copy every 2 months, I believe. Now the Institute, also in an attempt to reduce the wastage and becoming more sustainable, gave its members the option of receiving the Linguist digitally. I think it's better because I can simply go online, get into my account, which I'm a member, I've got my account, and I can read the Linguist online. So, and I avoid them, sending the hard copy, wasting paper, again, ink, etc., etc. And of course, the costs involved in the postage of things, which is another thing. And if we, as entrepreneurs, we need to think about the bottom line, and we need to think about the expenses that these things may cost us. And of course, if we are going to use a lot of paper, we will be consuming a lot of paper, we'll be buying a lot of paper. That's an expense on our business. If we are printing stuff, we are constantly buying cartridges, which also are very expensive. And of course, if we are sending things, for example, overseas, they will have a cost. In the case of a translator like myself, I only need to send things if it is a certified translation that the client requires for a hard copy to be sent. So that's the only reason it's appropriate for me to send things. Another thing I have on my terms and conditions and on my price list, for example, if the client wants a second copy of a document that is translated, they will have to pay an extra fee for printage and certification. That makes sense. It will help with the cost of paper, and obviously also with the cost or with the service of having to certify the second set of documents. So this is another thing, and that may also deter people from asking for a ton of documents that they may not need. They just ask for the sake of it. This is another thing. For example, when you leave every single day, when you leave your workstation, make sure all your appliances are switched off. Your printer, your computer. It's good for the computer because it's a way of the computer to completely cool down and restore, etc. And then you start fresh the next day. Your screens, your printer, all the devices that you need for work, make sure you switch them off. Make sure your office has LED lighting, because also it's more efficient and it's cheaper to run. And another thing, if you are on the expenses for your office because it's important, shop around for a better deal in electricity so you also can save there. So this is all ways, simple ways that we can turn our business into a more sustainable business and save money, because if we look at it, every single step that we make in order to be sustainable, it also translates into savings. If we put better lighting that is going to use less electricity, obviously that will translate in a shorter power bill. If we're going to avoid printing, it's going to be less expense in paper and cartridges. All these things matter. So I think with simple steps, simple things, it doesn't need to be complicated, and it does not need to be a huge plan or anything. It's just small things, very, very small things that we need to look at and see, oh well, what can I do different? What can I do differently that can actually be better for the environment and better for my business? I think that's the secret here. We just think as entrepreneurs, and how can we save money? And when we think about saving money and cutting those costs, we are also thinking about the environment. Think about it. And that's all for today. I hope you liked this insider, the first one for August. And I hope it really gave you ideas on save, first of all, and also be sustainable. I think it's very important these days that we think about this, not only for the savings that it brings us, but for the effort to minimize our efforts or our negative effect on the planet. So simple things. But if you have any more ideas, if you are running your business and you have a few more things to add to this to-do list, please feel free to share with us in the comments. I think it's very important, and these things are even more important to share, because if we are all aware of these things, and if we all know about them, and if we all know about ways of being more sustainable and saving money, I think it's something that is a positive for everyone, and it's a win-win for our business, for us, for translation, and for the environment. So what more positive can it be? So share with us, or if you think that some of my ideas may have not been good, well, say it as well, share. As I said, I always like a good debate. I always like to have different opinions, because I think that's the only way we all grow. I keep on saying this, and I'm never tired of saying it. So, and put a like on the video and subscribe the channel with a click on the bell so you get a notification for a new insider every week. Before I go, I would like to thank you all for watching. Have a lovely week. See you next time. Thank you. Bye.